Can we I just do the question again, and then you can pop in?
Yeah.
You mentioned actively spreading AIDS?
There was a unit in from Simon that one of the things was that we went into African countries.
And how was that done exactly?
Through inoculation.
Through vaccines?
Yeah, through vaccines. Pretending to inoculate people and that type of thing.
The idea being to kill black people?
Yeah, to eradicate black people. You must understand the concept was that AIDS was a killer. It was incurable at that point in time, so it was led to believe that if infected people, it was the quick, non-militaristic approach to eliminate black people.
And that is something you know for a fact, that AIDS was actively being spread to other countries?
Yes, to African countries.
Sirach chapter 12 and verse 17. If adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first. And though he pretend to help thee, yet shall he undermine thee. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honor to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, El Great Millstone, who very well, very beautifully. Double citations to the Hakim and her pushing his gospel in truth and in sincerity, to the best of their ability, given to them by Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the elect scattered abroad. May the election of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord, will live upon your houses. This is Brother Quanah Watts from the Arizona Great Millstone Camp. Come back at you, Lord will, with the edifying lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord will. It is edifying, Lord will. It is straight to the point. You know, and as you've seen in that, that clip, right, you had a man basically admitting, right, and speaking on them basically, utilizing, these jabs to, to push forth these different, pestilences and diseases and so on and so forth, and then particularly, right, HIV/AIDS, man, and it was ultimately, aimed to kill, right, who he said were so-called blacks, and yes, Esau did his experiments over there, and over there in the land of Ham, the Hamites, right, the so-called Africans, right, but a lot of Esau's experiments, right, have happened to the Israelites, and there's many different experiments that Esau has done, like the Tuskegee Airmen, right, giving those men syphilis and whatnot, doing it on purpose, right? There was an experiment of genitalia mutilation, right, that they did on women, right, the so-called black women, right? So Esau has done these different things to, the Israelites, right? That's always been their main target when it comes to these different, experiments, such as, again, dishing out different diseases and viruses and so on and so forth, man, and now that, as the scriptures say, like, knowledge shall increase in the earth. Now, right, we're in the age of information. All this information is coming out, right? The Esau Edom, the self-proclaimed so-called white man, right, is the one that's behind all these different, events that have taken place, all the different diseases and whatnot, right? He's the one that's been, pushing them, man. He is the wicked, as the scriptures speak of, man. Let's go to this in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 3, right? Because this is the time that we're in, right? This is prophecy, right? 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 3, it says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come. And that day is speaking on, right, deliverance, right? Yahweh Shai coming and establishing, a righteous rulership, in the stead of this wicked rulership, right, that Esau is running, which is going to be a rulership that's going to be established forever, right? After this wicked rulership goes down, starting with Yahweh Shai, righteousness is going to rule in forever, for all eternity, But it says that day shall not come, except their coming or falling away first, which has ultimately happened. You know what I mean? We're in the result, right, of us falling away from Yahweh Shem Shai, you know, and now being, you know, under the captivity, right, of the heathens, right? Which had happened many times, but that, you know, that ultimate, right, was going back to 70 AD, right? The sieging of Jerusalem, you know, and you know, ultimately the scattering, right, of the Israelites, right? It says, in that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. And this is what's going on, right? Esau, Edom, right? That man of sin, the son of perdition, right? That third part of man, right, is being revealed, you know, for all the wickedness and evil that he had done, right? And that he, you know, every time that he ultimately tells you, right, that he's doing something good for you, or he's gonna benefit you, right? You understand that this damn devil is a liar, right? Straight up liar. We read in Psalms, the 10th chapter, and verse 7, it says, his mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. So this damn devil, right, is going to tell you nothing but lies, right? He's not going to be able to, you know, it's literally not in his nature to tell you the truth, man, right? You read in, was that Jeremiah 13, 23? Is it 23 and... Hold on. I think it's Jeremiah 13:23, if I'm not mistaken. Right here, yeah, Jeremiah 13:23. It says, can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spots? Then may ye also do good that are accustomed to do evil, right? And that's a rhetorical question, man, because we know that those who, you know, are set up to do evil are only going to do evil, right? Scriptures say that if he do good, he do it not of his own, right? He didn't do it you know, because he wanted to, you know. Ultimately Yahweh Shem Shah made him do it, but at the end of the day, right, he ain't even made, you know, to do good, to do right, you know. He's only going to continue to, you know, do wickedness, man. You know, and we're seeing that. All this information is coming out proving who he is, you know. And that this is the man that when he offers you something good or tries to tell you there's something good, you have to understand that there's an alternative motive, man. You know, going back to Sirach. Sirach chapter 12. And verse 10, and we'll read down. It says, never trust thine enemy. And we understand that the Israelites, right, which are the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, as well as you have Israelite foreigners that have been scattered into these other nations, right? Our enemy is the Edomites, man, right? Really all the heathens, but mainly, right, the number one enemy we have is the Edomites, man. You know, beginning with the elite banker families on down, right? And we can read about that in Psalm the 83rd chapter. It gives you a list, right, of the different, you know, nations that have been confederate against us. And the number one nation is Esau, Edom, man, right? Today is the so-called white man, the self-proclaimed so-called white man, right? And that's not saying that all so-called white folks, you know, are bad, because again, you do have the Israelites that, you know, that look like Edomites, man, right? Again, we've been scattered into all nations. I'm talking about, again, right, the you know, the Edomites, man. You know, again, it's not about skin color, right? But again, predominantly, the Edomites are the so-called white folks, right? It says, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. So when you leave a piece of, you know, iron or metal or whatnot out into the, you know, out in the elements, right? You might have it all brand new and shiny, but if you leave it out there, you know, a week or two, a month or two, you know, however long it takes, right? Eventually that rust is going to start showing, you know? And this is what's going on, right? This damn devil's, you know, is not, you know, standing the test of time. he's losing that battle, man, right? Because his wickedness is coming out now, right? He's not able to deceive the world like he once was, right? It's as though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped away a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away. Right, right. Meaning we seen it loud and clear. You know, and the evidence is coming out, man, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai, which again is prophecy. Right, we just read it that the end can't come until this, ultimately takes place, man. You know. It says, set him not by thee, lest when he hath overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat, and thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith. Right, right. Take this into account, and apply this. These damn devils are not to be trusted. Because at the end of the day, they're very covetous. They are the covetous, man. They want what you want. They just don't want you to have anything, man. Esau's greedy as hell, man. So best believe, again, when you deal with these damn devils, man, they have an ulterior motive. And usually that, encompasses, bringing you down so that way they can go up, even further. It says, who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or any such as come nigh wild beast, right? So at the end of the day, you've been warned, as it says in Ezekiel. Right, let's go ahead and grab that. It's a quick lesson to the spirit. Ezekiel 3 and verse 17. It says, son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Slacky, man, I have I don't necessarily have a lot of these highlighted brand new phone, man. But nonetheless, it's Ezekiel 3:17, son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Right, a watchman, right, meaning that we're looking at these different events and different dialogue, right, from these damn Edomites, man, and the different, laws and legislation that's being passed, man, and we seeing what's going on through the spirit, right, and that these damn devils are the wicked, right, and they're ultimately doing what? It says what? Therefore hear the word of my mouth and give them warning from me. We're warning, right, our people. Never trust these damn devils, right? But again, you're going to have some that are ultimately going to trust this damn devil, and they're going to, ultimately, agree to whatever he's offering, right? Just like we seen back in the, the scamdemic, you had a lot of videos going out, right, speaking on, basically what this devil is putting in these, these icky bickies, and how it's ultimately going to, kill you, right? And years later, right, all those people still took it and whatnot, and now people are dying, right? Young kids are dying, at alarming rates, so at the end of the day, you were warned, man, so nobody's going to pity you, you did it into yourself, it's Sirach 12, and, verse 14, it says, so one that goeth to a sinner and is defiled with him in his sins, who will pity? For a while he will abide with thee, but if thou begin to fall, he will not tarry, right? It says, an enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit. He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood, man. And that's his damn devil, man. Always looking and lurking, man, watching, right? Greedy as hell. Right, don't want nobody to come up except him. That's how these people are, man. They're fucking snakes, man. You can't trust these damn devils, man. Again, I'll read verse 17. It says, if adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first, and though he pretend to help thee, yet shall he undermine thee. He will shake his head and clap his hands and whisper much and change his countenance, right? He'll play the part, man. But that's how they are. Don't get it twisted, man. These guys, they might play the friendly part, this and the third, man, but hey, they're very subtle and crafty. Understand who this devil is, man. For real. But I'll go ahead and close out with this in Jeremiah chapter 49. This is a quick lesson, man, through the spirit. Jeremiah 49 and verse 10. It says, but I have made Esau bare, I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. No, now we know who you are, right? Now we know who these people that are in charge, that have been doing nothing but spreading wickedness in the earth. Now we know who they are. We know that they're the wickedness, the border of wickedness, right? We know that they're the Edomites, man. You know, they went ahead and changed their name, right? Instead of calling themselves Edomites, they're calling themselves white people, right? As if they're such a pure and righteous people. They're not. Scriptures call them the basest of men, right? It says the wicked walketh on every side, when the vilest of men, you know, are exalted, and these are the vilest of men, you know, and they're in charge, man, you know. But soon they're going to be brought down, right? As we read in what is that, Jeremiah? It's like a Job 15:21, you know, a dreadful sound is in their ears, and the you know, the destroyer, right? Matter of fact, let's bring that out, and then we'll finish this one back off, right? In Job 15:21, a dreadful sound is in his ears. In prosperity, the destroyer should come upon him, right? Yahweh Shai, right, is going to take him out of the way, you know. And that's why it's a dreadful sound in his ears, because he doesn't like the sound of, you know, him being told that he's about to be brought down, you know. But there's nothing that he can do, you know. Yahweh Shemel Shai is the one that set him up, and Yahweh Shemel Shai is the one that's going to tear him down, right? Again, going back to Jeremiah chapter 49 and verse 10, it says, but I have made Esau bare, I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not, you know. But that's all I got, man. Lord will is edifying. Lord will straight to the point. I want to give all praise, honor, glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak, Kodash, double honor to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, the great millstone. Until next time, say shalom.